Hello, and welcome to Ms. PM Reads Christian Content, where we are continuing in All's for the Best by T.S. Arthur. In our last video, Markland was still struggling with negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors. And it wasn't until a little girl came into his place of business to ask him for money that he remembered his mom and her illness and that sort of thing. And it says that compassion found a back door into his heart, and he changed his ways. So that's very encouraging. All right, we are now in chapter 6, and it is entitled Cast Down but Not Destroyed. Tripped again. Who? Brantley. Poor fellow. He has had a hard time of it. Is he all the way down? I presume so. When he begins to fall, he usually gets to the bottom of the ladder. It was true. Brantley had tripped again and was down. He had been climbing bravely for 3 or 4 years and was well up the ladder of prosperity when, in his eagerness to make 2 rundles of the ladder at a step instead of 1, he missed his footing and fell to the bottom. First knowledge of the fact came through the conversation just recorded. From all I could hear, Brantley's failure was a serious one. I knew him to be honorable and conscientious, and to have a great deal of sensitive pride. A few days afterward, while passing the pleasant home where Brantley had been residing, I saw a bill up giving notice that the house was for sale. A few days later, I met him on the street. He did not see me. His eyes were on the pavement. He looked pale and careworn. He walked slowly and was deep in thought. He is of tougher material than most men, if the heart is not all taken out of him, I said in speaking of him to a mutual friend. And he is of tougher material, was the answer. That is, of finer material. Brantley is not one of your common men. Still, there must be something wrong about him, some defect of judgment. He is a good climber, but not sure-footed. Or it may be that beyond a certain height, his head grows dizzy. If one gets too eager in any pursuit, he is almost sure to make false steps. I think Brantley became too eager. The steadily widening prospect as he went up, caused his pulses to move at a quicker rate. Too eager and less scrupulous, I suggested. His honor is unstained, said the friend with a warm smile. In the degree that man grows eager in pursuit, he is apt to grow blind to things collateral and less concerned about the principles involved. In some cases, that may be true, but is hardly probable in the case of Brantley. I do believe that he has swerved from integrity in anything. It is my belief he has not swerved. I do not believe, there we go, he has swerved from integrity. Okay. It is my belief, I answered, that if he had not swerved, he would not have fallen. I may be wrong, but cannot help the impression. Brantley is an honest man. I will maintain that in the face of everyone, was the reply. Honest as the world regards honesty, but there are higher than legal standards. What A and B may consider fair, C may regard as questionable. He has his own standard, and if he falls below that in his dealings with men, he departs from his integrity. I have nothing to say for Brantley under that view of the subject, says the friend. If he has special standards of morality and does not live up to them. The matter is between himself and his own conscience. We on the outside are not his judges. It so happened that I met Brantley a short time afterwards. The circumstances were favorable and our interview unreserved. He had sold his house and a large part of the handsome furniture it contained, and was living in a humbler dwelling. I referred to his changed condition and spoke of it with regret. There is no gratuitous evil, he remarked. I have long been satisfied on that head. If we lose on one hand, we gain on another. And my experience in life leads me to this conclusion, that the loss is generally in lower things and the gain in higher. I looked into his face, yet bearing the marks of recent trial and suffering, and saw in it the morning dawn. Has it been so with you? I asked. Yes, and it has always been so, he answered without hesitation. It is painful to be under the surgeon's knife, he added. We shrink back, shivering at the sight of his instruments. The flesh is agonized, but when all is over and the greedy tumor or wasting cancer that was life-threatening is gone, we rejoice and are glad. He sighed and looked sober for a little while, as thought went back and memory gave too vivid a realization of what had been, and then resumed. I can see now that what seemed to me and is still regarded by others as a great misfortune was the best thing that could have taken place. I have lost, but I have gained, and the gain is greater than the loss. It has always been so. Out of every trouble or disaster that has befallen me in life, I have come with a deep conviction that my feet stumble because they were turning into paths that would lead my soul astray. However much I may love myself and the world, however much I may seek my own, below all and above all is the conviction that time is fleeting and life here is but as a span. That if I compass the whole world and lose my soul, I have made a fearful exchange. There are a great many things regarded by businessmen as allowable. They are so common in trade that scarcely one man in a score questions their morality. So common that I have often found myself drifting into their practice and abandoning for a time the higher principles in whose guidance there alone is safety. Misfortune seems to have dodged my steps, but in this pause of my life, in this state of calmness, I can see that this misfortune is for my good. For not until my feet were turning into ways that lead to death did I stumble and fall. Are you not too hard in self-judgment? I said. No, he answered. The case stands just here. You know, I presume, the immediate cause of my recent failure in business. A sudden decline in stocks. The color deepened on his cheeks. Yes, that is the cause. Now, years ago, I settled it clearly with my own conscience that stock speculation was wrong, that it was only another name for gambling, in which, instead of rendering service to the community, your gains were, in nearly all cases, measured by another's loss. Departing from this just principle of action, I was tempted to invest a large sum of money in a rising stock that I was sure would continue to advance until it reached a point where, in selling, I could realize a net gain of $10,000. I was doing well. I was putting by from $2,000 to $3,000 every year and was in a fair way to get rich. But as money began to accumulate, I grew more and more eager in its acquirement, and less concerned about the principles underlying every action until I passed into a temporary state of moral blindness. I was less scrupulous about securing large advantages in trade and would take the lion's share if opportunity offered, without a moment's hesitation. So, not content with doing well in life in a safe path, I must step aside and try to strengthen at climbing more rapidly, even though danger threatened on the left and on the right, even though I dragged others down in my hot and perilous scramble upwards. I lost my footing. I stumbled. I fell, crashing down to the very bottom of the hill, halfway up, which I had gone so safely ere the greedy fiend took possession of me. And have not been really hurt by the fall? I remarked. I have suffered pain, terrible pain, for I am of the sensitive nature, he replied. But in the convulsions of agony, nothing but the outside shell of a false life has been torn away. The real man is unharmed, and now the bitter disappointment and sadness that attended humiliation are over. I can say that my gain is greater than my loss. I would rather grope in the veil of poverty all my life and keep my conscience clean than stand high up among the mountains of prosperity with a taint thereon. God knows best, he added after a pause, speaking in a more subdued tone. I recognize the hand of his good providence in this wreck of my worldly hopes. To gain riches and at the sacrifice of just principles is to gather up dirt and throw away goodly pearls. How is it with your family? I asked. They must feel the change severely. They did feel it, but the pain is over with them also. Poor, weak human nature. My girls were active and industrious at home and diligent at school, while my circumstances were limited. But as money grew more plentiful, and I gave them a larger house to live in and richer clothes to wear, they wearied of their useful employment and neglected their studies. Pride grew apace, and vanity walked hand in hand with pride. They were less considerate of one another and less loving to their parents. If I attempted to restrain their fondness for dress or cheek their extravagance, they grew sullen or used unfilial language. I don't know what that is. I'm going to say foul language, maybe. Like their father, they could not bear prosperity, but all is changed now. Misfortune has restored them to a better state of mind. They emulate each other in service at home. Their minds dwell on useful things. They are tender of their mother and considerate of their father. Home is a sweeter place to us all than it has been for a long time. And so what the world calls misfortune has proved a blessing. Yes, in permitting my feet to stumble, in letting me fall from the height I had obtained, God dealt with me and mine in infinite love. We give false names to things. We call that good, which only represents good, which is the heart and life, and not in external possessions. He has taken from me the effigy that he may give me the good itself. If all men could find, like you, I said, a sweet kernel at the center of misfortune's bitter nut, all men may find it if they will, he answered, for the sweet kernel is there. How few find it. Nay, reader, if you say this, your observation is at fault. God's providences with men are not like blind chances. but full of wisdom and love. In the darkness of sorrow and adversity, a light shines on the path that was not illuminated before. When the sun of worldly prosperity goes down, 1,000 stars are set in the firmament. In the stillness that follows, God speaks to the soul, and it is heard. Okay. Woo! Goosebumps. That was a powerful little short story chapter there. Yep, it was. All right, we're going to stop there. That's the end of that chapter. I do want to say, sometimes I stumble over a word, or I may not know, like that one word. I've never seen that before. And we are here together. We are on whatever device you're watching on, but my hope is that we feel like we're together. It's a cozy place to get together and listen to a story. And if I were indeed present with you in a room, if I stumbled over a word, I couldn't go, wait, stop, I have to re-record. I just stumble and keep going. So that's kind of how I've set this up, as if we're just sitting together, sharing a nice story. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.